Badger fans, what's going on? We have to talk about the gigantic, enormous basketball visitor coming to campus. It's potentially one of the biggest recruiting battles that Greg Gard could win in his entire Badgers tenure. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. Plus more. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs is the most comfortable pair of pants you can possibly wear. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege and they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. All right, let's get into it. Kon Knueppel, recently over on Rivals. So let's start here. Kon Knueppel, 6'6", 210-pound basketball player in the 2024 class out of Wisconsin Lutheran, so a local and state kid, coming to visit tomorrow, June 21st, on an official visit. He's been to Wisconsin before. Rivals bumped him up to the 13th player in the country, the number 13 player. That's a 5-star recruit. The composite on 247 has Kon Knueppel as the 25th best player in the country, a 4-star recruit. So needless to say, we are talking about one of the top 15 to 13 to 25 players. That's one of the top 30 players in the country on the low end, and one of the top 15-ish players in the entire country in this class on the high end. Coming to Madison, 5-star kid in our backyard, plays like he was made from a cookie cutter board for a Greg Gard system, right? Really efficient shot maker, usable in the post, can invert, can shoot from deep, incredibly skilled scorer at the high school level. Just a complete bucket getter, one of the elite shooters in the country. Really good size. He's going to be a mismatch problem in college. He has some of this, and he has some of the same stuff that we talked about with a guy like Chucky Hepburn, where he could be a really good college player, but probably doesn't quite have the athletic measurables to jump to the NBA in a year or two. So you're going to potentially, whoever gets Kon is potentially going to get a player for several years at the college level. Let's talk about what's going on with his recruitment here. So we've laid out the groundwork. 5-star player in our backyard, fits Greg Gard's system tremendously well. Easy to project at the college level. He's going to get buckets. He's a shooter with size. Right now, Virginia's in the mix. Marquette's in the mix. Wisconsin's in the mix. I believe he's visited Notre Dame. There's real competition here. I know Marquette and Virginia are very much in the mix. If you think of Wisconsin, Virginia is very much like Wisconsin, similar type of styles, academics. He would fit there really well. He's taken an official to Virginia. He's taken an official to Marquette. I think the in-state poll is important to Kon and his family. So Marquette's definitely a program to watch. This would be enormous. You start thinking about the 5-star players that Wisconsin has landed on the basketball side. There's not many of them, right? Brian Butch was a 5-star. Sam Decker was a 5-star. Joe Krabbenhoff was a 5-star, for those who may not remember, coming out of the Dakotas. He was a 5-star player. But just not many, right? There are not many 5-star guys who have made their way to Wisconsin. And Kon Knueppel would be one of the most projectable outside of Sam Decker, really, of those 5-star guys. You would pencil him in right away. Like instantly, he could come in and he could give you 10 points a game with his shooting ability, his size, his skill. When you look at his game, you're talking about a guy who, any type of pick and pop situation, you can't give him any space. He's big enough to get his shots off against smaller players, but he's strong enough and physical enough that you can't just put a long, lanky guy on him. Kon will kind of punish that guy in the mid post. Very crafty. He scores with either hand. Really, really, really good passer for a bigger forward. He's going to play a 3 at the next level. Just a tremendous offensive skilled player. So he's coming to visit June 21st, which depending on when you watch the show, is today, tomorrow. But yeah, he's coming to visit. He's coming with Jack Robeson, who's already committed. He's coming with Jackson McAndrew, who is another highly sought after kid in the 2024 class. So there'll be a group of players here on campus. It's always great to get a committed player on campus when other guys are coming to visit, right? So Robeson can fill that need of a guy who can say, yeah, I committed here. I believed in it. This is why I believed in it. Come play with me. That's going to be a really big aspect to this. Just having someone there that can kind of relay that level of commitment to them. And then let's talk about what this potentially means in terms of if you get Kon Knueppel. Now, is this, let me start here actually. Is this a must-win recruitment? No, it's not, in my opinion, because you landed Daniel Freitag. You had to get one of those guys, right? And you got Freitag. I actually thought at the beginning of this cycle you would end up with Kon and you wouldn't get Freitag. You got Freitag, so I think it's unrealistic to say you had to win both of those recruitments is maybe a better way of saying it, right? Those are both really hard national level recruitments. You won one of them. If you bet 50%, and in the 4-star recruiting battles, you're doing just fine. So I don't think it's a must win, but it would be an enormous win because when you start to look at this team and the framework and the framing that's being put up. Now I'm thinking about a house and a foundation and the framing of the walls and building the foundation of a program. When you start looking at the foundation going forward of this team, if you could add a Kon Knueppel to this, Badger fans, I don't have Rajiv on this show, but yeah, you're talking about a national title team, potentially, right? You're talking about that level of talent again, going back to where we were with those Decker Kaminsky, those type of teams that had the Nigel Hayeses and multiple NBA players. What you would be doing with this team is you would have a lineup, and it never works out quite as perfectly as you think it will. Like I've said that on previous shows, but you would have a potential lineup. Connor Sejan would still be here. Right, you would have Nolan Winter, Gus Yalden, Daniel Freitag, Kon Knueppel. Listen, John Blackwell, AJ Storr, right, would be on those teams for a couple years. Like you're talking 6-7 deep of skill of all players who have skill and who can shoot. All of those dudes, Winter, Yalden, shooters, Blackwell, a shooter, Freitag, a shooter and a scorer, a Sejan, a sniper. Right. And then you would add in Kon Knueppel, who is one of the best shooters in the entire 2024 class, and he has size. Right. This is from NBA. Let's see. This is from a scouting report from NBA Draft Room. Kon Knueppel is a big-bodied, sweet shooting wing with a legit NBA skill in his shooting ability. Listen, when websites like NBA Draft Room, when NBA draft-centric sites are doing scouting reports on high school kids, and that high school kid could potentially end up in Madison, that's when you sit up in the chair a little bit, right? You take notice. You say, okay, let's get after this one. He's a tremendously skilled offensive player. And when you start to look at the team that he could be involved in at Wisconsin, feel free to get excited on that hype. I mean, buy a ticket to that hype train because that would be an incredibly fun team to watch. You wouldn't be able to guard them. You wouldn't be able to guard them. And with Greg Gard's ability to coach defense, discipline, to instill basketball fundamentals, if you give them a team of skilled basketball players who can shoot, who can play multiple positions, who have versatility, golly, man. So let something to track, right? Coming to Madison tomorrow, official visit, visiting with a couple other kids. He almost certainly will not commit. They're not going to shut him down on this visit. It's hard to do with blue chip prospects, but this is a great opportunity for Greg Gard to hit a home run on a visit. He has to hit a home run. I think Blue Bloods are going to get even more involved with Kon. There's a ton riding on this visit. That is, they have to hit it out of the park. And, if they do, Wisconsin's very much in this. Like Wisconsin is very much in this recruiting battle. I can tell you that from conversations I've had. Wisconsin's very much in this recruiting battle, but it's going to be a tough one, right? And this visit is going to be an instrumental part of where he ends up. So let's all hope together on it because it is a huge visit for Greg Gard and Wisconsin and the future of the basketball program to get a guy like Kon Knueppel potentially in the door. All right, we're going to take a quick break, talk about one of our friends of the show. We're going to come back with another big prospect visiting. What do we think about Jackson McAndrew? How would he fit into this team? And what does his relationship with Daniel Freitag play into this? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Birddogs. I've talked about my love for Birddogs a lot. Listen, summer's coming. You got to look good. You got to be comfortable. You got to have things that can move with you, that can play the casual role. Like, hey, I want to roll up to a beach volleyball game. My Birddogs fit for that. I also want to go out to a nice lunch with my lady. Birddogs fit for that. I want to sit down and record a pod. Birddogs listen for that on the, they just fit everything you want to do in a summer. Go to the beach, go to the dock. My legs look great. Birddogs are the ultimate key in helping you look comfortable, stay comfortable, be comfortable. They were designed for this, and they look good on top of it. So if you order now, go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. You're going to throw in a free, absolutely free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. So not only are you getting the greatest shorts, the greatest, most comfortable, best looking shorts that you can find just in time for summer, but you're getting a free Yeti-style tumbler, which I have as well. I never take my Bird Dogs off. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. You will not regret it. birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. All right, I do want to take a quick second to say thank you to everybody who tunes into the shows, who comments on them. I read everything. I need to continue trying to respond to more stuff. I'm in a busy point in my life, so I apologize that I'm not quite as active on that. But thank you for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate y'all. All right, let's keep this going. So Kon Knueppel is a big fish coming in to visit, but Jackson McAndrew is also coming. McAndrew is a big-time prospect as well. Like, he would headline a lot of recruiting weekends. Like, he would be the headliner on a lot of weekend visits. It just so happens he's visiting with Kon Knueppel, who's one of the 20 best players in this class, right? But Jackson McAndrew, a 6'8", 200-ish pound power forward coming out of Wayzata, Minnesota, the number 2 player in the state of Minnesota. He's a very high 3-star or a low 4-star, depending on where you see him. So again, right in that sweet spot where I think Wisconsin tends to live when they're really successful. Rivals has him as the 89th best player in the country, a 4-star player. The composite's a little lower. The composite has him as a 166th best player in the country, but that's a blue chip level type of player. What do we get with Jackson McAndrew? So big forward, 6'8", 6'9", great shooting stroke. And a lot of times when people say that, especially with a Badgers type program, they get typecast a little bit, right? Plotting big man who's going to shoot some. No. Not with McAndrew. He's a much better athlete than people think. Right? Watch his film. Like, he's clever. He attacks closeouts, able to do a really nice kind of left to right crossover, gets in the paint, can finish with both hands. He's much better as a slasher and a driver than I think he gets credit for. He's a better athlete than I think he gets credit for. I think, again, some of that is people typecast players, right? They look at a body type, where they're coming from, who's recruiting them, and they kind of just say, that's probably just kind of a pick and pop unathletic shooter, who's going to play really fundamental. No, McAndrew can play above the rim. I really like his ability as kind of a secondary rim protector. McAndrew's able to come across the paint and get some blocks. Not a primary rim protector, but somebody who can add that type of defensive recovery role, which I think is really valuable at the college level, at the NBA level. The shooting's real, right? That's what people talk about a lot. Great range, quick release, 6'8", 6'9", so it's a high release point, difficult to contest. McAndrew does a lot of those shooting and spacing things that are necessary at the college level. He's going to stretch defenses out. He has gravity. But again, the unique thing with McAndrew is he's not just a shooter. He can put it on the deck. He can get to the rim. He has some unique kind of really ball handling ability for a high school 6'8", 6'9" guy that I just think is unusual. That's why, to me, he's such an interesting prospect. He's not a one-trick pony, but even if he were, and he's not, in my opinion, but even if he were, that one trick is really good. He can shoot. Right? What's the common theme recently with Badger recruits? Maybe outside of Freitag, and Freitag can shoot too, by the way. But everyone else, the first thing people think of is shooter, right? Shooter. Greg Gard has leaned heavy into, we need more shooting. We need to find shooters, and everybody he's recruited has been able to shoot the ball. So McAndrew is definitely in that vein. Good range, good mid-range ability. Shows some mid-post stuff where he can kind of turn around and fade away. And again, just that release point and that height on that jumper is difficult to deal with for opposing defenses. So he's a big prospect. Again, borderline 4-star kid, top 150-ish player in the country, coming in with Kon Knueppel and with Robeson. I'd say just a huge recruiting weekend. The other thing I want to talk about, and when I had Daniel Freitag on the show, he talked about this, right? Him and I discussed it. We talked about, what is your relationship like with Kon Knueppel? And Freitag was extremely complimentary of Kon's game, but he did say, I don't really know him that well. And then I asked him about Jackson McAndrew, and he lit up, right? His eyes got big. He's like, Jackson's my guy. Great shooter. I love him. I would love to play with him. So make no mistake about it. Landing Freitag helps Wisconsin a lot in this recruitment because those two are almost inseparable. They're great friends. They talked about it to other people. I know they talked about it to Dylan Graff as well, who runs the incredibly good, incredibly time. I'm trying to think of the right word. Just awesome site over at Badger Notes. So go check out what Dylan's doing as well. They're constantly putting out content, which is incredible. He's talked about it to Dylan and he talked about it to me. They're really good friends, right? So landing Daniel Freitag in itself was a coup, but it could open the door to get Jackson McAndrew as well. And even if you end up, listen, that's no consolation prize. Like everything in a way is a consolation prize to Kon Knueppel because he's a 5-star in-state kid that Wisconsin is sitting really well for. And if you don't land him, there's no other 5-star kid you're going to slide in, right? That ship doesn't leave the dock and another 5-star ship pulls into the pier and you're like, oh, it's fine. The USS 5-star just pulled in. No. Once the Kon Knueppel train leaves the depot, if it's not flying a Wisconsin flag, there's no replacement for that in terms of recruiting pedigree in this class. However, Jackson McAndrew is no consolation prize. That's what I want to emphasize here. He is a legit stretch forward with athleticism, above the rim ability, and I think secondary rim protection defensively. So he'll be a huge get. And like I said, on a lot of weekends that didn't have a Kon Knueppel visiting, he would be the headliner. So yeah, Jackson McAndrew also coming this weekend. Good friends with Daniel Freitag, borderline 4-star player, another from that Minnesota area where Wisconsin has just established such an incredible pipeline. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, obviously Locked On Badgers will be here to talk about whatever happens. After the visits, we'll feed you in with what we've heard and what we've seen and what we think of these players. But it is a huge recruiting weekend for Greg Gard, and I can't wait to talk about it more. Again, Daniel Freitag visiting, Jack Robeson visiting, and Kon Knueppel, the 5-star in-state visiting. All right, we're going to take a quick break there for our friends of the show. We're going to come back. A poll was recently done among all the Locked On Big Ten hosts to rank the Big Ten coaches. And I want to show you who the top 5 Big Ten coaches, according to all the Locked On hosts, are. And I'm going to tell you where I think the list is right, where I think it's wrong, where Luke Fickell should be, and where he actually is. You're going to see that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. All right, welcome back to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in, as always. You guys are incredible and amazing, and this community we're building is absolutely humbling, and it's awesome just to be a part of it. And that's what I consider myself, just a part of the community that we're building around the Locked On Badgers show. The Discord's incredible. Go check out what everybody's saying on there from Ryan, from the deputy, from Molitor. I mean, just everybody in the Discord's incredible. I shouldn't even start naming them because I'm going to leave people off. Badger Gator, all the great people in there. Go check out the great Badger conversation on our Discord page. All right, let's get into this. So all the Locked On Big Ten hosts got together and we did a poll. Who are the top 5 Big Ten football coaches right now? I definitely want your list on this too. How would you rank it? If you're an athletic director and you were starting an expansion college football program and you could hire any Big Ten coaches, how would you rank them? Who would you want to lead your college football program if you could pick from the Big Ten? Who would be your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice? I would love to get those lists. In fact, we may even make our own poll and turn that into a show. But I'm going to put the list up here. So if on YouTube, you can see it. If you're on the podcast and listening, I'm going to read it out to you. Here are the top 5 Big Ten football coaches right now, according to the Locked On Big Ten hosts. All right. Number 5, Luke Fickell. Number 4, James Franklin. Number 3, Brett Bielema. Number 2, Ryan Day. Number 1, Jim Harbaugh. Okay, so I think this is the right top 5. Let me start there. I don't think this is the best order, but I think this is the right top 5. Let me tell you where I agree and disagree. Harbaugh is 1, Ryan Day's 2. Okay. Now, this list feels vindicating to me in a way because last year I did a show. I ranked all the Big Ten coaches. And listen, I had my share of misses. But one thing I did is I had Jim Harbaugh number 1, right? I had Harbaugh 1, and I caught so much flack because they said, oh, you're just overreacting to Michigan beating Ohio State once. I'm like, no. No, absolutely not. Jim Harbaugh, whether you like him or not, whether you think he's too quirky or not, that dude is an incredible coach. Okay, make no mistake about it. Harbaugh is an incredible coach, right? He took Stanford from a doormat into a perennial college football powerhouse, right? Those Andrew Luck years, that was Harbaugh re-energizing that program. He beat USC. Stanford was a 43-point underdog. I think it's still the biggest upset in the history of college football from a point differential standpoint. Like what he did at Stanford was incredible. And then he went to San Francisco. He went to the NFL, and he took a team that had been a doormat, had been cycling through coaches, right? Mike Singletary, Jim Tomsula, You could go on and on, have been cycling through coaches, had a broken down Alex Smith as a quarterback, and he turned them into a powerhouse instantly. Got him to the Super Bowl, got him to multiple NFC championship games. And as soon as he left, the 49ers fell into a pit of despair again, right? Like, I know he hasn't been as consistent at Michigan as people thought he would be, but he is an incredible coach. Now he's beaten Ohio State twice in a row. He is absolutely the best coach in the Big Ten right now. And his track record is unparalleled. Having done it at an academic school with no recent history at Stanford, having done it in the NFL, having done it at Michigan, he's incredible. Incredible coach. I would have Ryan Day too, but I still, because listen, his record at Ohio State's incredible, right? And there's a lot of coaches that go to real blue blood programs and still manage to muck it up. And you have to give Ryan Day credit for not mucking it up, right? The ship is sailing smoothly. The USS Ohio State is sailing very smoothly. But there's a part of you that still wants to say, oh, how much of that is Ohio State, right? How much of that is, what would you be doing, Ryan Day, if you were coaching Purdue, or if you were coaching Maryland, or if you were coaching, Utah State? I don't know. Like, I think he's a great coach. He's obviously fanatically competitive. Those stories are pretty legendary. He understands the importance of recruiting, marketing. Those are hugely important in the landscape of college football today. So I would put him at 2. It's hard to argue with. The record is absolutely insane at Ohio State. The recruiting is a monster. He's number 2. At number 3, I would have James Franklin. And this is where people start to disagree, I think, with me, with my takes, or we're past diverge, right? I've seen Fickle at 3. I've seen Bielema at 3. Again, the Locked On poll has Bielema at 3. I'll put it back up here. I've seen Franklin at 3. I've even seen Ferenc at 3. So I've seen a lot of different people at 3, depending on which poll you're looking at. Here's the thing with Franklin. I get it, right? I get that he has in-game time issues, right? He mismanages his share games. He also has to play in a division with Michigan and Ohio State every single year. So understand that. I think he's a really good recruiter. He sells his program. He understands his vision. He is very quick to make staff changes. Like, he will not keep a coordinator. We've seen it recently, hiring the Minnesota offensive coordinator and then jettisoning him. Like, he won't keep a coordinator for more than a year if it's not working. It's like, and I respect that. I like that. I want a guy who isn't going to basically keep a bad hire around. He's pretty ruthless with that, actually. And I think you need that as a head coach. I would also point to, again, I talked about Harbaugh on his resume. Franklin won at Vanderbilt, right? And he didn't win big, but he won at Vanderbilt. That is incredibly difficult to do. So I would have Franklin at 3. I go Fickle at 4. Right, so I have Fickle ahead of Bielema. I understand that Bielema has a Big Ten track record in terms of winning the Big Ten multiple times, but he also failed tragic. I mean, he failed at Arkansas pretty badly. And as resurgent as Illinois was last year, it was against a really down Big Ten West, right? Not a good division at all. And Fickle has taken Cincinnati to the playoffs. There's no win, or there's no bullet point on Bielema's resume that you'd point to that is better than Luke Fickell taking Cincinnati to the playoffs. I don't think that bullet point exists, right? So I think Bielema is a good coach. I think he's iconoclastic in kind of how he thinks, and that's a good thing for a program builder. He very much believes in his vision. I think he's well suited to the Big Ten. I think the fact that he worked for Bill Belichick speaks volumes to the type of coach he is. Bill Belichick does not hire losers. He doesn't hire idiots. Right. For all the kind of reputation of Bielema as kind of an oaf, but it means a lot to me that Belichick liked him enough to hire him and work with him for multiple years. So I think that's impressive. I think he probably grew a lot through that experience. He still has never done anything like take a non-Power 5 program to the playoffs. So I have Fickell at 4. I have Bielema at 5. A couple of quick takes for the Big Ten coaches. I've seen people have Ferenc a little higher because of the longevity, because of the fact that they almost always win 7, 8, 9 games, right? Because the defense is always incredible, because, he's always competitive, because it's hard to go into Kinnick. Here's the thing. He's too loyal to his son to be in the top 5. And that sounds like an awful thing for me to say, but it's true. He's too loyal to his, and that's, first of all, that's a great trait. I admire that trait. If this was a ranking of the top 5 fathers in the Big Ten, maybe I have Ferenc number 1. I mean, I know none of the fatherly characteristics of literally any other coach. But this is not a ranking of the top 10 fathers, right? This is a ranking of the top head coaches. And if you cannot make the tough decision to remove your son from an offensive coordinator spot where he clearly has failed, you can't be in the top 5. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. Pat Fitzgerald, I had him as the worst coach in the Big Ten last year. I still have him that. I think he's incredibly overrated. I think he's been overrated forever. I'm sorry. Like, Northwestern's not like a dumpster fire. People keep saying, well, what else could Northwestern do? Northwestern has had other teams before Fitzgerald, win the Big Ten. They've had other draft picks. Like, the idea that Northwestern is like the Citadel or like Western Michigan University or something is asinine to me. It's an incredible academic institution. They have great new facilities. I know the stadium is what it is, but their new like workout weight room facilities are really good. They exist in very close to really, really strong Illinois recruiting territory. Like, I'm not going to give a guy credit because he's just been there forever and he's a good guy. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, he's had back-to-back seasons where he's won one Big Ten game. It's just, he's not a good coach. It's just not. I'm sorry. He's not. So that's my Big Ten coaching thoughts. Again, I would have Harbaugh easily number 1, Ryan Day number 2 with a questioning emoji face of how much of it is Ohio State. I would have James Franklin at number 3, partially because I'm still very impressed by what he did at Vanderbilt. I believe he's really competitive, a great recruiter. And quite frankly, if he'd been in the Big Ten West instead of the East, he probably has another Big Ten title to his resume. I would have Fickle at 4 ahead of Bielema, just because I think Fickle has accomplished something that Bielema hasn't done, and I would have Bielema at 5. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, huge visits coming up for Kon Knueppel, Jackson McAndrew. Can't wait to see what comes out of that. We're going to keep y'all posted there on Wisconsin, and we'll talk again tomorrow.